Aloha, folks, and welcome to this edition of Five Questions. This is a special candidate edition, and featuring today John Carroll, who is candidate for United States Senate on the GOP side. And John, first of all, thanks for participating. How are you?
Well, I'm excellent, and thank you so much.
It is a pleasure to see you. Listen, we do have some time constraints, so I'm going to jump right on in. Very basic 5 questions for you. First off, why are you running for U.S. Senate?
I'm running for Senate because there has been a lack of leadership in both parties in this state. I think that there are major things that need to be done. Getting rid of the Jones Act restrictions is number 1. Getting Hawaiian justice is number 2. Number 3 is getting our economy in place, which is really tied into the number 1 issue that we have here. Also, our education system is not really being properly operated here. I intend to go into that as a former school teacher. I had an extensive background. I spent over 3 months as a classroom teacher and realized how important and how difficult that job is. Those are 3 of the main reasons. The other reasons tied to the federal condition of the federal, well, if you want to call it federal government, but in other words, our national deficit, the deployment of troops, our failure to deal with the IMF, United Nations, and the Federal Reserve are all issues high on my priority list.
There we go. Question number 2 for you, John. What differentiates you from your opponent?
The main thing that differentiates me from not only Mrs. Lingle, but really all of the other people that are running for the U.S. Senate is, first of all, it's not a beauty contest, so I hope they'll disregard my looks. But experience to me is the most important thing. I have, for those who do not know me, 10 years in the state legislature, and I have an ample record as to what I got done when I was there. So when we're talking about working across the aisle, I worked with the Democrats to get virtually all of the environmental law that's currently in place, everything from monk seal protection, ocean thermal energy, shoreline protection management. All of those were my bills. Most of them got through Gene King or Richard Kawakami, but working with the Democrats, I was able to do that. I can do the same thing in the U.S. Senate. In addition to that, I have 34 years of military experience, and I graduated from both Air Command and Staff College in residence and the Air War College by correspondence. So, and plus 34 years, everything from tanks to fighter pilots to judge advocate. So I understand the military, and then I can go there, and we've got a lot of involvement with the military, particularly on really on R&D, research and development that's going on, and cost overruns, things like that. This stuff should not be happening, not when our budgets are, not at all. The third thing is in business. I've done international business. I've created a company that's like 180 jobs, well-paying jobs. Starting pay for an engineer in our company was $5,300 per month. And so I do know about that. And then I also had time in aviation, and I've also incidentally had over 40 years practicing law. So I think I bring a very wide range of background to the office, and I think it's very necessary for anybody going to Washington to really understand a lot more than just what's going on in Maui or Honolulu. So,
what is it, John? With question number 3, what do you identify as being the greatest challenge facing us of the many that we have, but the greatest?
The greatest challenge that we have, I think, as Americans right now is to maintain the greatness that we've had and to get our country back on track in terms of being productive, to get rid of this concept that everybody's entitled to something that they didn't earn. I think we've got to get our national budget in balance. We need to get, I think we've got to look very carefully at what we're doing in terms of foreign aid and who we're helping with what. I mean, why are we giving money to Pakistan or Egypt or China? Why are we so in debt? I expect to see Washington, D.C. on eBay one of these days if we don't, do something about what we owe to the Chinese. We cannot be doing the kinds of foreign deployments. We cannot be doing the kinds of things that we're doing as long as we have this kind of international, indebtedness. Those are key on my list of things to do. I'm sure that answers your question, but
no, it certainly does. And there's a sidebar to it, though, and that has to do with service in the Senate. And here in Honolulu, in our county, of course, the rail debate has dominated our local races, of course. In the United States Senate, if the rail question were to come up to you in regard to funding, et cetera, what's your position on rail, and how would you treat that as a U.S. Senator?
Okay, well, my position on rail is the current rail package that they have, this overhead nightmare, is absolutely wrong. To be even thinking about spending $5 billion to basically afford 200,000 people to ride is just plain idiotic. If we had an at-grade rail system that went, say, from downtown Honolulu, as it did when I first came here, out to either Waianae or possibly to Kahuku, I would certainly be in favor of that, assuming the tidal wave issue could be handled. But what seems to make the most sense to me right now is the bus system that Panos Papadopoulos and Ben Cayetano are talking about, and I think that's the way to go. And the money that we could have available from the feds, from the federal government, I would certainly support that. I would not support money for this boondoggle that we're looking at right now.
Talking with John Carroll, he is candidate for U.S. Senate on the GOP side, and this is 5 Questions with the Candidates, and this will appear on the homepage of HawaiiReporter.com and also on the Rick Hamada program. Conversely, John, what is the greatest challenge, in your opinion, that faces our nation today?
The biggest, well, number one is, I think, our national debt. When I've looked at someone did a pictorial on what $15 trillion looks like, and I know that it's a huge, enormous amount of money, but when you see it laying out that amount of money between skyscrapers and buses and trucks, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen that, it's just an enormous, enormous debt. It's got to be brought under control. We've really got to look at having America being what we do best, which is production, sales, and international commerce. I believe firmly, as Richard Nixon once told me, that free trade, open markets really is the key to world peace and really to the ultimate survival of the United States as we know it. We cannot go to a socialist country and expect to survive.
Seems that we've had that imbalance for quite some time.
We're headed, yes, and with Obama, it's worse and worse and worse.
On these points, John, that we've talked about as far as greatest challenges, as U.S. Senator, what would be your strategy to improve upon those?
Well, in terms of international trade, I will be very vocal, very vocal on the issue of opening up our ports, as well as probably easing up some of the immigration restrictions that we have. The Singaporean model, they actually have a program to allow in-migration there to satisfy the needs. And what I'm looking at particularly for Hawaii is to get rid of these Jones Act restrictions so that we can attract Fortune 500 companies into Hawaii, and then also to bring in, if we don't have them in the United States population, from elsewhere to man those kinds of jobs that are available. Singapore has taken care of that. One of the other things with respect to Hawaii and ultimately nationwide, and that is affordable housing. This business of having people living on the beaches, standing in lines to get food at night, this I find absolutely abhorrent. I'll do everything that I can to put us back on a track where people can work and survive economically. I see that as really the most critical thing going right now. And I'm talking about nationally, the job situation, totally intolerable to me.
We just had statistical information say that the rate of poverty in America is the highest that it's been in contemporary history, and that the jobless rate amongst minorities is upwards of 17 to 18%, that we have a jobless rate that has been over the 8% mark for 44 consecutive months. And I'd like for you to respond in your opinion on that. And we have just about a minute and a half.
Well, as I say, to me, the whole answer to jobs is to have open markets and to have free trade. And I think that once we do that and recognize that, we're going to have a much different America than what we have right now. I mean, we do many things the best of any place in the world. We've got to get back to that right now. I think that we had the APEC meeting was here. They talked about it, and they're talking about free trade, and yet Hawaii, of course, is still closed off, and there's still all of these types of restrictions that are going on. And the only way to get over that is to be able to say, we are America, we are the strongest, this is how this should be, and to make sure that our word means something. We cannot have that kind of clout as long as we remain this heavily in debt to other countries.
How about an invitation for folks to support you with their vote, and then also where can they learn more?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm going to ask that they overlook the fact that I'm so much younger than the other candidates that would be replacing Senator Inouye and Senator Akaka at this point. I believe that they will please look at my experience and my background and realize that I will do what I say that I'm going to do. I've been saying these things really for about 40 years. I put in a resolution in 1970 to get rid of the Jones Act. We're still fighting on that issue. Please go to www.carrollforsenate.com. Mahalo nui.
All right. John, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. John Carroll, candidate for U.S. Senate. This edition of 5 Questions with the Candidates and a whole series that will appear on the homepage of HawaiiReporter.com and also here on KHVH Radio. We thank you very much for joining us, and aloha.